Your Honor, before you is Charles Vernon Hudson. Your Honor, he is pleading guilty today to actually possession of heroin, second offense. He's charged with trafficking in heroin. This is a waiver of indictment 2023-0155. Your Honor, as Your Honor knows, it's a policy that we typically do not send cases to the grand jury unless we have a drug analysis. I do not have a drug analysis in this case. However, I think the facts will substantiate probably that there was a good probability that the defendant was under the influence of some substance. This incident occurred on 6/15/2022. Actually, it's a highway department case, but law enforcement was dispatched to a parking lot here in Sumter. Looking for the exact location, Your Honor. It was at 378 near intersection 95. The defendant was parked outside of a BP gas station. There had been he had asked to be dispatched there because there was a person that was slumped over in the vehicle and looked non-responsive. At that time, the officer did approach the defendant. He was passed out, breathing behind the wheel of the vehicle. He had him exit the vehicle. There was drug paraphernalia there that was present, included a needle and a spoon in the driver's seat, along with a plastic bag with a powder-like, black powder-like substance. The defendant was also arrested for DUI, and there was he consented to a lawful blood draw. I do not have the toxicology report on that either, but when he was taken to the detention center, the alcohol content. Therefore, he would be, as part of this plea, waiving any kind of chemical analysis test report. But again, under the circumstances, Your Honor, the approximate weight as to what made it trafficking was 5 grams approximately. However, due to Mr. Routzong had actually been talking with me for a while about this case, but I needed to get the defendant's rap sheet and look before I could make a reasonable offer. But it does appear, based on his record and based on the facts of this case, that he has obviously a substance abuse problem, and therefore the state is recommending 5 years suspended on 3 years probation, with the condition of probation being intensive drug treatment as determined by probation, pardon and parole services.
All right, thank you, Ms. Bell. Mr. Donald, you and Mr. Routzong represent Charles Vernon Hudson.
Your Honor, we do, and if you will give me a moment's indulgence, I'm going to ask for proof.
Sir?
If you will give me a moment's indulgence, I'm going to ask if Ms. Bell and I can approve.
Okay, yes, sir.
Your Honor, this will not result in the suspension of his license, either, as I understand, but I want to make sure.
I believe that when the omnibus bill was passed in 2010, it took all of the driver's license suspensions away from
Any drug convictions?
Yes, sir.
That's my understanding.
But the reason I asked, he said the highway patrolman took his driver's license the night of this incident, but he instructed him, I don't believe it suspends it.
It was probably for the suspicion of DUI, I would
Right.
imagine. So this, unless something has changed that I'm not aware of, they haven't been suspending driver's licenses for drug convictions since 2010. All right, so I've amended the Senate sheet to possession of heroin first offense and changed the CDR code from 0177 to 0176. Mr. Hudson, you understand that possession of heroin as a first offense carries 2 years in prison, as a maximum penalty, you understand that?
I do.
Okay. Mr. Hudson, have you consumed any drugs or alcohol here today?
No.
Raise your right hand, sir. Speaking to the mic and state your full name.
Charles Vernon Hudson.
Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony of this court to be the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
All right, I'm gonna start with the jury trial rights over again. Mr. Hudson, you have the right to a jury trial. When you plead, you give up certain constitutional rights. You have the right to remain silent because you admit your guilt. You have your right to the jury trial. In the jury trial, the state would have the burden of proof. They have to prove you guilty to all 12 jurors unanimously. The indictment states that you did on June 15, 2022, possess a quantity of heroin. It was originally for trafficking, but they've reduced that charge to possession in violation of section 4453-370 of the South Carolina Code of Laws. You understand the charge of possession of heroin?
Yes, sir.
And how do you plead? All right. Because this is the first offense, the most I can hold over his head is 2 years. So the state has recommended 2 years, suspended to 3 years probation with whatever level of drug treatment you need to be determined by the probation partner parole. You understand that?
Sir.
Other than that, anybody promised you anything you should plead guilty?
Yes, sir.
Anybody forced or threatened you?
Yes, sir.
Doing this freely and voluntarily?
Yes, sir.
Satisfied with the services of Mr. Rapsong and Mr. Donald?
Absolutely.
All right, and you're pleading guilty to possession of heroin because you are in fact guilty.
Yes, sir.
You heard the state say that the analysis of this suspected heroin hasn't come back. You waived your right to have it tested and confirmed that you believe it was heroin.
Yes, sir.
All right. You have 10 days from today's date to appeal the plea. If you want to appeal, you must file that appeal in writing with this court. You understand that?
Yes, sir.
And you're pleading guilty to possession of heroin because you are in fact guilty. All right. I think this fellow's already put the facts on the record about him being slumped over at the driver's seat and the officer finding him to be drug paraphernalia in plain view and seizing the suspected drugs. You agree that those facts that she stated earlier are all substantially correct?
Yes, sir.
Find there's a substantial factual basis for the plea. I find the defendant's decision to plead guilty is freely, voluntarily, and intelligently made. He said, advice and counsel and attorney with whom he's satisfied, and I will accept the plea. Mr. Donald.
Your Honor, apparently, Mr. Hudson had that substance independently tested because he was able to confirm for the officer on the scene that it was in fact heroin, and therefore it makes it much easier to weigh the analysis, the scientific analysis. He said it was heroin. He told me when I walked back in there, before I told him that drug treatment was part of this part of the negotiations, that he wanted drug treatment. He lives in Conway, Your Honor. Tells me that his job's waiting for him. He can go right back into it. That's the reason I asked specifically about the driver's license, is because that was very important to Mr. Hudson with regard to resuming his life. He wants to put this behind him, and I don't think he's going to be a problem with us anymore. I have informed the Department of Probation that he wishes to have his probation transferred to Conway, or to Horry County.
Judge, as far as his drug treatment, can we just ask that he attend drug court? That's pretty much the most intensive drug program we got. And as far as financially, it's a lot cheaper versus going to behavioral health or any program similar to that. So all he'd be required to pay for is the hair follicle test.
Your Honor, I don't know that I've ever disagreed with Agent Tisdale before, and I didn't think it would ever happen, to be honest with you. However, if it's going to be transferred to Conway, I don't know if Sumter County Drug Court would be a reasonable expectation for him, and I have no idea what drug court is like in Horry County.
Well, they call it treatment court in Horry County, and they have different levels of, they have a tiered system of levels for what they require. I'm just going to put on the Senate sheet, Mr. Tisdale, with all due respect to you, that treatment for drug addiction will be determined by SC, PPP, and it may be transferred to Horry County. Now, Mr. Hudson, you got to understand, whatever the probation folks in Horry County say you have to do, you've got to do it. I'm not gonna put specifically drug court or treatment court or whatever they call it. But if they say, this is what we need you to do, that's gonna be a condition, and they're gonna determine that. I know what I would do if you were staying in Sumter County, but I certainly don't think it would be in your best interest to choose to stay in Sumter County just because you don't necessarily know what Horry County is gonna require you to do. If they say you gotta go to inpatient treatment, you know, that's something that you're gonna have to deal with down the road, and I'm not gonna have any control over that. I've made it as broad as I can on the set sheet. You understand that?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Your Honor, did you give him credit for the amount of days?
I was about to ask how many days he's been in our jail.
By my calculation, 246.
246.
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, Mr. Routsong has been advocating for Mr. Hudson for some time, so.
Right. On the recommendation, Mr. Hudson, 2 years Department of Corrections, provided that upon the service of 246 days of absence, suspended and placed on probation for 3 years. Give him credit for the 246 days you've served, and marked substance abuse, counseling, random drug and alcohol testing, and treatment for drug addiction be determined by SCPPP may be transferred to Horry County. Good luck to you, sir.
Thank you, Your Honor.